Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today we are discussing North is the Night by Emily Rath. But before I get into that, before I get it going, I gotta warn you, I gotta let you know that we are crass and unhinged, we're terribly unladylike, and we're gonna talk about all of the naughty times using all them four-letter words.
Let's get freaky, let's get naughty.
Not in this book.
Oh.
I mean, there's a little bit.
Anyway.
Wiggs, tell me about Emily Rath, would you?
I would love to. See, Emily Rath was raised in northern Kentucky. Lifelong lover of words. She's been writing for as long as she could hold a pencil. Her earliest stories were about daring egg burglars, majestic horse lords, and seafaring adventurers. She put story writing on hold for quite a few years as she pursued higher education. She chose to focus on her other soulmate, international politics. This lover showed her the world outside of books. Now she holds a BA in political science, philosophy, and a PhD in peace studies and political science. She specializes in African politics, and she's currently a full-time author and lives in Florida. So
She just moved. She's not in Florida anymore.
liar.
She thinks she's Pacific Northwest.
Also, she's got some random facts listed here, so I'm just gonna pick 3 at random. So first of all, does not, with an emphasis on not, drink coffee ever. Can't even stand the smell. Prefers unsweet iced tea. Wow, that's a
Okay, I love unsweet iced tea, but I also love coffee, so.
yeah.
I hate coffee, but I also don't like iced tea at all.
I do
Your
like
life
iced tea.
Your life must be so sad, Danny.
She was a percussionist for 10 years. In what group? Who's to say? And zodiac sign, Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon, and a Libra rising. So we all know what that means. No, I don't. So then let's talk about her books. These are the books. We got That One Night, Pucking Around Ever After, Pucking Wild, Pucking Around Ever After, Volume 2, Pucking Sweet, and Queer and Cute, Whiskey and Sin, Beautiful Things, His Grace the Duke, Alcott Hall, and now our book of the day, North is the Night. Danny, what is that book about?
Based around the Finnish pantheon, it's about 2 girls, Siiri and Aina. One night they are, fishing. Well, they weren't fishing. They were essentially preserving fish, and then all of a sudden Siiri's brothers are trying to warn them about something, and they're being chased through the woods by a death goddess, and Aina gets taken. And I don't know where to go from this. It's so weird.
They go to the Finnish mythological, I can speak words good, underworld.
Underworld, yes.
And from there, the plot thickens, I guess. Yeah.
A lot of things happen. We're in romantasy, guys. A lot of things happen.
It's hard to kind of sum it up. But essentially, Siiri's trying to figure out how to get Aina back. Aina's trying to figure out how to get out of Tuonela. That's right? Tuonela? Yeah, Tuonela.
Yep. You nailed it.
Perfect. And a lot of bargains are struck.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's discuss it. Sorry.
I think I want to preface this book for just as somebody who has read Emily Rath's Pucking Around series, which is it's hockey romance, but it's spicy as fuck. And I think a lot of people have this expectation, because North is the Night is one of her newest books, going into it, that it would be a really spicy romance fantasy book. And it's definitely more fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And very little romance. It is a duology. Maybe there's more in the second one. And very little spice. So I think a lot of people had an expectation just based on her other books. And I think based on also how the publishing people, because I think this one is actually a published book because she's normally self-published, kind of represented this book and marketed this book. And it wasn't correct. And so I think a lot of people are upset that it's not the book they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw just looking down, what people were saying on Goodreads, is it's kind of marketed as a sapphic romance, and
Yes.
it's not really that.
It's also, I think, marketed to be more like high intensity.
Yeah.
Not it is high stakes for the world that they're in, but like it's not epic fantasy, I guess is the term I'm looking for. It's very
intimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
That being said, I did really enjoy it, but we also know that I like a pantheon situation.
Yeah, it's I just wanted to bring that up because, like, you know, us having read Quicksilver or what are some of the other romantic books? What's the one with the Norse gods, Danny?
A Fate Inked in Blood.
Yeah, I think there was maybe more of an expectation of this that it would be kind of similar to those, and it's not. I mean, I wouldn't even really put it under the category of romance at all. It's just a fantasy book.
I wouldn't either. I think it's fantasy that has like some romantic lines in them that are, you know, portions of it, but it's not even really romantic.
Right.
And the thing I think that also sort of dulls all of that is this was told very in line with how we get a lot of mythology stories, where there's a lot less of emotion in how it's told. There's emotions going on between the characters, but that's not how the delivery exists.
Yeah.
If you were to like read Greek mythology, it feels very in that vein, where like, yeah, Zeus and Hera are a married couple, but you're not going, wow, what a romantic story.
Yeah, no, because
You know?
Zeus cheats on her every fucking chance she gets, and she takes revenge on people
Right.
for that situation.
Because when you're dealing with gods, the concepts of what's moral are different.
Right, which is actually a big point in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even talking about the two main characters, Siiri and
Aina.
it was, I think the confusion is like the book is almost told as if those two are going to be the romantic interests, and like they kind of are, and we get there at the end, but there's never really anything romantic that we see between them, like growing their relationship.
Well, and Siiri even says it at the end. She's like, I don't really know what we are. Like, we sleep in the same bed every night. We're never apart from each other, but I think we're just kind of like platonic soulmates at this point.
Right.
That's even how Aina describes it. She's like, you know, Tuni has my heart, but Siiri has my soul. Let's maybe talk about that. Let's start with the romances that exist. Because I think that the romances are there. They're just not the traditional romances that people are used to and comfortable with. And I think there is sort of this like learning curve as a reader. You have to adapt when the stories that are being told are different. So you can't have the same like meet cute kind of thing, and you can't have the like grumpy sunshine kind of thing, because that's not the type of characters you're dealing with when you're dealing with world shattering figures like gods.
Yeah. Well, and if we talk about the gods, so Tuoni. So if we talk about the gods, Tuoni, who is the one of the gods of death, and he is been captured by his
essentially mistress.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be his life partner, but she is not queen of
Tunela.
Which is kind of by her choice. Like the intention was for them to get married, and Tunathar is just decided that she can have more power without that. And it decides to imprison Tulni when he decides, well, I do actually want a wife. And so she specifically is having these peasant girls kidnapped because that's sort of the threat, is that he will marry this peasant girl and elevate her to the state of queen.
Well, and when she imprisons him, she says the only way he'll be able to get out is if he finds his queen. And it has to be somebody who comes willing to him and everything. Well, she's parading these women in front of him basically to torture him, and she tortures them in front of him essentially without any of them even realize that this is what's happening. They just know that they're being tortured. He is witnessing this all through a raven's eyes essentially.
Or as a tree in the forest.
In the forest.
And the way that she's killing them when she's done with torturing them is particularly cruel, because they don't get to ever really know peace. Because supposedly Tuonela is supposed to be this like very peaceful realm of like, this is just afterlife. This is all it is, right?
Which in a lot of pantheons, that's how the their underworld version of the, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's start that again because I hit my mic. Which in a lot of pantheons, that's how it's supposed to be, is the underworld. Because like you look at Disney's Hercules and people think, oh my God, that's what the underworld that's not the underworld of the stories of the Greek pantheon. Yes, there is a torture, like punishment area of that, but that is not the vast majority of what the underworld is.
Well, especially with the Greek pantheon, the biggest tortures were ones where you don't get to die.
Yeah.
Right? But so their relationship is one where you can maybe imagine at some point that between the two of them there was something.
They had a lot of children.
Well, they're not his.
Oh,
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Which we never get to know how they came to be, other than
With gods, you never know.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, she could have just pulled them out of herself and said, "This is mine."
yes.
yeah. But he treats them as his children.
Uh-huh.
They're his daughters. Because he doesn't, aside from, spoilers, aside from the one that he ends up having with Aina at one point, I don't think he has any sons.
No.
No.
He has grandsons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I believe Loviatar has multiple
9 sons.
9
Loviatar
sons
has 9 sons and 1 daughter.
and 1 daughter.
So I think to get to your point about like the romance isn't told the way we are expecting it, because Aina and Tuoni end up together. She ends up becoming the queen, releasing him, saving the realm, yada yada yada. It's not a yada yada yada, but I just figure we'll maybe talk about that eventually.
Yeah.
But the romance between them is very much the way you would read it in mythology, which is he kind of just not necessarily immediately falls in love with her, but after watching her and after like being the raven who literally goes into her room and acts as the support system for her and listens to her, falls in love with her. And there really isn't like a romance per se, but it does also still feel very real. Like he is very much in love with this woman.
Well, and it also makes sense that he would maybe have more feelings for her than she has for him, because he knew that, who she was and was witnessing her and was listening to her and everything. But to her, all of the weeks that she was there being tortured, he was a raven that was there helping her and feeding her and, doing what he could for her.
Right.
And I think that was done really well, because Aina brings that up again and again, where she's like, I see the raven in him, but it's more now. Like the raven was a raven, and she knew there was more intelligence to there than like a normal bird.
Well, and he was clearly doing some sort of magic.
Yes.
Well, he's somehow providing her with food that the other girls don't get to have. He provides her with a dress. Like somehow he's able to invoke either some kind of magic or manipulate Loviatar to make that happen. It's hard to say, but we do know that he's giving her things that no one else gets to have.
Yeah.
Well, I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that the castle, they say at one point, the castle kind of reflects who was ever kind of on the throne at that point. And so I feel like it's a little bit of like his magic, but also the castle remembering who he is whenever the raven shows up and being able to give those things.
That is possible. I didn't think about that before. That with him entering the room, maybe the room was changing for him as what he wanted for her.
Right.
Because also,
Which
Tuniatar. Tuniatar is, she kind of broken. Her magic doesn't work like it once did.
No.
And so she can only mask things to a certain degree. And so like one of the first nights that they find out where they are and everything, she pulls them in. There's this great feast. She's beautiful sitting on the throne. She, the food looks amazing and everything, but she can only hold it for, I want to say maybe like 10 minutes they were in there before everything drops.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the big tortures she has these girls endure, is that the first bite of food is delicious. The second bite of food and anything after is like
Moldy.
poison. Yeah.
Right. So while Aina is getting food from Tuoni, all these other girls are starving because they can take one bite of bread and then it is basically moldy and maggoty.
Yes. I also think that one of the things between Tuoni and Aina is that I think we're supposed to take away from it that the sapphic element that's the thing that's holding Aina and Tuoni back, but I don't really think that that's the case.
I think it's more the impression I get is not that it's the fact that she is deeply in love with Siiri. It's that she doesn't belong there.
Right.
She's not
Yeah.
supposed to be in the land of the dead.
Well, and I don't know if we ever really get their ages, but she is young enough to still be a maiden and unmarried. So she's very young, and to be thrust in a position where she's now queen. She's still in the land of the dead, even if it is nicer now and he's trying to make it more of kind of a haven. But also, I mean, Tuniatar is still there, even if she's shackled, and some of the daughters are still on her side. Like, Aina is never safe. She's never comfortable. She's never safe. And it's like, she can't live there like that.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think is hardest for Tuoni, is because he's like, I can keep you safe, but in that moment at the very at the end, when Siiri has gotten there and is taking her back, he has the realization that she's not, and she's not going to be safe. So a better thing is to let her go and let her raise their child in the land of the living, where his granddaughter is as well.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with that too is that Aina has sort of like tied his hands with that, because she is the one who stops him from destroying Tuniatar and says, well, we'll just keep her locked away and she can come down for dinner. One of the things that I think was my favorite element of the books was the promises that she makes Tuoni keep, and in order for her to release him from the tree and to agree to be his wife, is that the girls who are still alive at that point, he has to find a way to get them home, and he has to give them what they keep calling like a sweet death, of being able to live out your days and die in old age. And then she asks him to change Tunela to make it better, to fix things, right, and do all the things that Lovitar has told her that he claims to want to do. But then there's like this last little like request, is that she knows what will need to happen when she becomes a wife, but that she asks that he treat her with kindness and won't hurt her, right? And sort of unintentionally in that, yes, he agrees to that promise, but that's part of, I think, why he agrees to do some of the things that he feels are against his better judgment, because in his mind, that's him doing what he promised, that he would be kind to this mortal who doesn't understand the world of the gods.
I think the other thing I love about Tuoni is he is kind of not what you expect from like this grand death god who just got released. Very similar to, I think, like we read in some stories of like an archfey or something like that, where he is out of touch with like the reality, as in what Aina has to deal with, but he's also trying so hard for her. Like, he's trying to be sweet, he's trying to like make her comfortable, he teaches her how to ride a horse, and they do have these kind of romantic moments, and I think if the book was just that story, maybe it could have fit the romantic-y storyline more. But unfortunately, the thing that I got bummed out about, because I liked Aina and Tuoni's story a lot, is every chapter then we'd switch to Siiri's, and it's like, that's also a good story, but like I'm getting really invested in one and then you're shoving me over into another.
That's the thing. Like, I liked both stories. I almost kind of wish they had been separate books.
Right.
And, they didn't have, but there is the driving factor of their wanting to be back together in the world of the living and everything. And I understand that that's largely what drives Siiri's story, is she has to get to Aina. Aina doesn't, like, she thinks of Siiri, but she's kind of resigned to the fact that she is going to be down here. She will be in Tuoni, she'll be with Tuoni and everything, and she's the queen now, and this is her fate. She's kind of resigned herself to that fact pretty much up until the point where Siiri arrives.
And with that, like with the split, it's really frustrating because they are both really good and interesting stories. And I like had to check in with myself, I guess, a little bit, where I was like, why am I so bummed when it comes to Siiri's side? Like, I'm just like, ugh, back to Siiri again, even though I'm enjoying the story. And I think that part of the problem is I, at my core, in spite of all outward appearances, am a hopeless romantic. And so
Same.
when you tell me that Aina and Tuni are having this like budding relationship that's very sweet, he's working so hard, so overtime to be the sweet guy, because that's not what he is, and that I'm supposed to be rooting for Siiri and Aina? No. I'm not. I couldn't get there.
I honestly, what I was really hoping, because the thing that we haven't talked about is that Siiri goes and meets up with the shaman of all shamans. His name is Vainamoinen, and she is becoming a shaman herself in order to be able to go to the land of the dead to get Aina. I saw way ahead of time that she was going to have to kill him and be.
Yeah, that was not a surprise.
Yeah, it was not a surprise. I knew it was coming.
Which is also very in line with mythology.
Yes, absolutely.
I wasn't entirely certain if it was going to happen in this book or the next book. That was the only surprise of like when it was going to happen.
But so what I wanted to happen is that, yes, Siiri would go there to speak with her, and I wanted Aina to be like, look, I've given my vows. This is where I'm going to be. I need to make this better because eventually everyone we know will be here. Right. This is where we come. Like I wanted her to become invested in that because the people that she loves are going to end up there someday.
And so will she.
And so will she.
Well, that was kind of the thing that I was thinking too in my head is like either Aina was going to tell Tuoni, I need to finish my mortal life. And then when I die, which I will come back to you.
That's what I wanted. That's all I wanted was just that little nugget at the end. Keep everything else she said. But then say, when I die, and I will die, I will return to you. That's all I needed. Just something to give me hope.
Well, and then I wanted Siiri to go back after Aina says, I can't. I am starting to have feelings for him because she is.
Yeah. She says it at the end that he holds her heart.
He holds her heart. She does really love him because he is a good person.
Yeah.
But I wanted her to be like, nah, I can't go. And then Siiri to come back and be like, okay, well, I got to take care of this Christian persecution crap that's going on in Finland because this is some bullshit.
I think to your point about Siiri, though, like when we switch to her, the biggest problem is while she is the hero of the story, she is the antagonist in Aina and Tuoni's story.
Yes.
And it's really hard to
It's hard to root for her.
It's hard to root for her. I was like, I want you to become an amazing shaman. I want you to save your people. I want to stop. I want you to stop the Christian persecution, bring the gods back, do all that cool shit. Just leave Aina and Tuoni alone.
Well, I think the other part of it and why it's so hard to almost like resign yourself to the inevitability of Siiri and Aina is that at the beginning, they have not done anything to really entrust us with the belief that Aina and Siiri are in love with each other in a romantic way.
Right.
I think that's because they haven't realized that is a thing.
Right. And so if you're trying to root for Aina and Siiri in this situation, you're rooting for them to ruin what is happening between Aina and Tuoni, which is most definitely romantic.
Yeah.
And so it's like hard to convince yourself that those are the two that should be together.
I just was so invested. I was like, Siiri, come an amazing shaman. Go take care of that bullshit. Yeah. It was one of my favorite moments when they were in Tuonela and they were talking with Loviatar and she's finally given up her daughter's name, showing that she trusts Aina and everything. And she said something and Siiri goes, she's beautiful. And they were like, what? Yes. I was like, yes. Because she's the goddess of hope, which is also a very pantheonic thing. It happens in many pantheons, specifically the Greek one. It is Pandora's box. All of the like plagues and everything come out of Pandora's box, but what also comes out of Pandora's box is hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a quick note, because like you mentioned so many names, which was super cool right there. I love the fact that Emily Rath did not shy away from the names. She was like, these are the names. We're going to do it. And I didn't listen to the audiobook, so I had no idea how any of these were pronounced, and it didn't bother me one lick.
I had to look up because I didn't know anything about the Finnish pantheon, and these are the Finnish pantheon. I had to find out for myself. I was like, oh, did she make this up? Or because you never know with romanticy and stuff. I'm like, did she make this up, or is it based on a pantheon? And it is based on a pantheon.
Yeah, she does have like a little snippet at the very beginning of the book where she's like saying these are based off of the real pantheons. I obviously took creative license to make my story work. Some gods were combined, things like that. But nope, this is This is good, real stuff. So while that was, I don't know if it was a bold choice, I just really appreciate the choice to do the names. I think it was a bold choice, and I also appreciated that she made the Christians the bad guys. And
Oh, I loved that so much because
Historically, they are.
I was going to say,
yeah,
my own thought process aside and religious trauma aside, that is the reality of the thing. And it's the reality of the thing for a lot of pantheons. For instance, St. Patrick's Day.
Right. So it's also historically accurate, right? So people
Yes.
could be up in arms about it, but it's like, well, no, that's kind of like how
That's
things
what
happened, though.
happened.
Hello, the Inquisition.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, to be fair, in general, there is not a religious pantheon that has existed prior that wasn't also violent, just not with the success rate that Christians were.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
like,
we're not saying that any of the other pantheons were like not brutal, because have you heard the stories? Damn.
yeah.
But the
Christians
Christians were
just
kind of
like,
dicks.
you know, they really perfected it. So, but one of the things I really like about the way she handled the pantheon and of these Finnish gods and things like that is that there, in most retellings, tends to be a softening of a lot of what the gods really are, especially if you're trying to make one of them romantic and things like that. And
Especially if you're trying to make a death god romantic.
right. And the thing about these mythological stories and why they exist is they exist to teach morals and to give context to why the morality of the time is what it is, and to teach lessons. So if your Vamatar is not actually that evil as the goddess of evil, you've failed in telling the story. You know, if you're, I can't remember which one is which, but there's one that's the goddess of the twins. One's the goddess of pain. One's the goddess of like suffering. Well, then they should be that. Now that they might be representative of that, and they might also choose to do things that are counterintuitive to that, but then you have to justify that. And I think she did
Right.
a really good job of doing that.
Well, even so, like, you know, when I was kind of doing my half-assed and terrible description of the book, my apologies. So they're taken by Kalma, who
Yeah.
is the goddess of decay. She stinks. And through most of the book, you think she is just a raging asshole who is, like, devout to her mother and everything. Well, when Tuoni comes back, you find out all along she was taking these women, but she was doing it so that she could hopefully find Tuomi a spouse.
Yes.
So, was she doing a good thing? No, she was not. Absolutely. But she was doing what she thought she needed to in order to fix the whole situation. The gods are often, you know,
Fickle?
complicated in
Well-
their reasonings.
Well, you can kind of also understand the thought process of like, everybody is going to continue to suffer
Yes.
if we do not get my father unleashed.
It
Well-
was kind of a greater good situation
Yeah.
that she took no pleasure in it, but she had to make it seem like she did in order to continue what she was doing.
To trick her own mama.
Well, and the other factor to keep in mind too is if she doesn't do this, Tilmanthar is just gonna send somebody else. So there's that, and you know, when you're talking about, I guess, kind of the greater good, this is supposed to be the place where everybody goes. This isn't hell, this isn't heaven, this is just everyone goes here. And so you're talking about the reality of all souls. So there is that as well.
It's complicated with gods.
And
Yes.
you even see it after Tuoni takes over and comes back, that the souls that are there, the undead or whatever that are there, are a little bit more lively.
Well, and she mentions Aina has for lack of a better way to put it, a handmaiden
Yeah.
that is there to take care of her. She is one of the walking dead, essentially. And she notices when, after Tuoni takes over, her hair is brushed. She's in better clothes. She's better taken care of. And she's like, yeah, she's still kind of a walking zombie. Her fingers are still broken, but she is better.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked that Emily Rath did in this is there are questions that Aina asks, that Siiri asks, that as a reader you want answered, and she doesn't give you the satisfaction. Like, did Tioni know that Kalma was doing this? Did he sanction it?
Right.
To have these girls snatched from their homes. And how long has this actually been going on? And how long was it going on and nobody really fucking noticed?
Well, Tuoni says that he specifically told Kalma not to do this, but it's like,
but how do you know if you can trust him on
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of where Aina lines up with it, because she asks him multiple times after he's already denied it.
Yeah.
right. Well, and you know, he almost contradicts himself too, because he says that he has these like visions from the goddess of hope of a wife and a son and all of these things, and she's like, Aina is like, so did you know what was going on, like with all these girls getting captured? Was this also part of your plan? Am I just part of this like grand scheme?
And you don't get an answer.
We don't.
Not one you can trust anyway. And yet at the same time, you kind of get the sense that he really did not want it to happen, because he's the one who has to endure watching these girls get tortured.
Right.
To make them hunt each other was just
But it felt so like classic mythology.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I really liked this book. But yeah, it was just, there was a lot that was very classic mythology and very, very true to things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, like, I don't know the stories of this particular pantheon. There's too many pantheons to know them all. But it aligns a lot with Greek pantheon and with Norse.
Right. Turn half of the girls into animals and the other half have to hunt them.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to tell you that you have to hunt them.
Yeah, you're just looking for food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're also not going to tell you that we transformed half of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I thought was such an amazing nod to mythology is all of the like animal references, and like how the animals were a little bit more personified than like regular animals. Like the reindeer kind of had like a lot of personality, and the bear that she rescues, which of course we find out later why he has a lot of personality. But
Well, and also just the Finnish respect of the bear
yes,
is so high that if you kill a bear, whether for food or protection or whatever, you have to have a celebration of the bear's life, which I thought was like a really interesting touch. And anytime they talk about who they are as a people, they are the bear.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ravens are very important in a lot of mythology. Obviously, of course, the Finnish, given this story, again, I don't know much about the Finnish mythology. I shall be doing research because I find it fascinating. But they're also very important in Norse mythology and Native American mythologies. So
I bet you if you have a little hyper-focus moment on TikTok, you can find a whole bunch about the Finnish mythology.
oh, I'm sure I can. I can hyper-focus like a son of a bitch. It's mostly been Jonestown lately, but we'll try to get away from that one.
One of my favorite things whenever I'm like reading about any mythology is the overlap, where I'm like, we just borrow from each other's cultures.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love it when I'm like, okay, so I recognize you. And I recognize your counterpart. Okay, I see what you did there.
Yep.
I don't know which came first, chicken or egg. None of my business. But I see what you did there.
I do like in this, though, and I don't know how true it is to Finnish mythology. I would assume, because it seems like Emily Rath was trying to keep true to that, but I don't know for sure.
She seems to at least have done a lot of research.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was so cool how many gods of death there were.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we don't get to see a ton of the other gods, except when there's this big coronation ball thing for Aina and being announced as the new queen. We get to see some of them, but we see them for such like a brief window that I'm like, please tell me in the second book we get more of them.
Yeah.
I loved that in those interactions. She's like, I can't just like go over there and talk to them. Like, it was so cute. He's like, why not? You're the queen. Go. This is your realm.
Right. But like, I've been worshiping the goddess of the moon for how long? And now she's just sitting there.
And I've been
like,
queen
she's a
for 2
goddess.
minutes.
Yeah. I love it when, was it Loviatar is like, you just wave her over if you want. You're the queen. And she's like, I can't wave the goddess of the moon over to me like I'm summoning a dog.
What's wrong with you?
It was just... it was those moments that I super appreciated in that, because she didn't turn her into, well, I'm the queen instantly. It was like, she still had her really humble, like, I am a fishmonger's daughter. Like, I'm lowborn and I don't know what I'm doing. And it was adorable and perfect and would be how you would act.
But I like that instead of, because we do also get books where characters are like that and they just never really grow into their queenly status, where Aina did also immediately. Like she was still both people, and that felt really real.
Yes.
Of like trying to be the queen and trying to like even command Loviatar at points, right? The goddess of illness, and yet is also like, I'm just a lowborn mortal. What? No.
Well, I do love when she makes the distinction of who she really is. Alive, she's Aina. In the death realm, she's Ainatar. I thought that was great. And like her moment of claiming that power was like a really good, like, yeah.
Oh, yes.
moment.
I loved that.
Especially when it led then to the sex time.
Which was too brief.
It was too brief.
Yep.
Too brief.
But good. I like a man who asks permission. And
Right?
you gotta respect that.
Yep.
Yeah.
He is nothing if not respectful. I'm like, oh, hello, Tuoni.
Well, he's not even just like respectful. He's like, I am respectful of my wife, and you will be respectful of my wife.
Yes.
And everybody you have ever met ever will be respectful of my wife, or we have a problem.
Well, even Aina has a hard time, like she's married to Tuoni, the god of death, the king of Tunela, and she stops a lot of times to recognize, like, I can't just like talk to him, can I? I mean, he's like, he's him.
My favorite part about that is she usually catches herself on that when she's been busy ordering this bitch about.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, you're gonna do this, and I'm sick of your shit. And then she's like, yee. Would that
Oh my.
come out of me?
I love though when they're in the sex scene when she claims her new name, she finally really claims her power as queen, and she's like, gives him permission, and that man is so fucking eager. He's like taking his clothes off so fast.
I know, he's instantly stripping and I'm like, oh, he is resting no time.
He's like, I've been waiting for this. Clothes off.
Yes. Well, and he keeps giving her these like ultimatums that are fully bullshit, where he'll be like, I won't come back to you until you ask me. And then he's like, you didn't like ask exactly, but like I got the vibe.
Well, and, okay, but vibe is actually right, because
They do have a blood bond.
Yes. And so they literally can feel each other and call to each other.
Yes.
And Aina, I feel like that is such a real thing, though, in relationships where it's like, oh, I'm really mad at you tonight. I don't want to see you anymore. And the next day you're like, hey, babe, can you come over here?
Can you come cuddle me?
Will you make me toast?
And Aina does that, like, and it's so funny because, yeah, he's like, I won't come back to you unless you call to me. And she's like, okay, fine. And the next day she's just like, Tuoni, can you come in here?
Please. It's been 5 minutes.
Yeah, they can't stay mad at each other, which cracks me up.
No, and I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. Like he's Tioni is like a fucking Rottweiler, like just ready to snap your face off, who like magically turns into a golden retriever the second he's with Aina. He's like, no, I've never done anything.
But here's the thing. Rottweilers are the sweetest dogs.
They are.
Yes.
He's a Rottweiler doing the Roddy Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, I sound ferocious.
I am so mean. You have no idea.
When in reality, he's purring. That's something that Rottweilers do, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. He's and so again, it makes it really hard to go to Siiri.
Yes.
It does.
But Siiri's story was also so good, and I know I'm repeating myself, but like
Her story is fascinating.
well, her story, it's very classic. It happens in a lot of books, mythology. There are video games that are purely based on this concept of I am going to hell to bring back somebody.
Yes.
Right. And so that is Siiri's whole story. And it is, I don't want to say unoriginal, because I mean, like, it's not like I just said, it happens all the time, but it felt so cool to watch her go through these almost trials and like overcome the wilderness and to meet gods and to overcome like this witch and finally find the shaman. And he's like,
Trappers that try to...
oh God, that scene was rough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
But right on the edge, and I appreciated that. Like, she never took it to a place where I couldn't handle it.
Right.
But there is a trigger warning on that for attempted sexual assault.
yes.
Well, I would, yeah.
I think the hardest part though was that character he's not sympathetic. I wouldn't say that, but there's like a softness to the approach that is hard to reconcile with what society is constantly like pushing on you of like, this is what assault is. It almost like is more uncomfortable and hurts more.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I won't hurt you. And like, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just made me tense up the whole time.
Well, and she counteracts it, right? Because there's that guy, and then there is the other guy who's more the classic, like, you know, very aggressive and stuff.
Yeah.
But Siiri kills both of them, so good her.
Yay!
Yep.
But then she also has to grapple with, like, okay, now I have killed people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Aina also ends up having to, now I've killed people, because she, during the girls hunting each other scene, one of the other girls shoots this girl because she thought it was a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, okay, I'm going to try to help her. You go find the other girls and make sure that this doesn't happen. And then she slits her throat because there isn't a way to help her.
She got an arrow in her neck.
Yeah, like maybe with a trauma unit in nowadays,
Right.
they would have been able to help her, but not then. And that's still a maybe nowadays.
Yeah. I also will say with Siiri, because she was going through the classic hero's journey, there also was sort of this, I already know where we're going. I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move past it. And so I was glad that she put in these moments of Siiri's like powers developing and you having more of a reason to want to stay in it. Like, for example, her being able to transport part of her soul back to her village and seeing that there was this attack going to happen on this community that's celebrating the death of a bear and intervening there. Like, all of that made it much more interesting. And if we didn't have those elements to it, I think I would have checked out every time Siiri came on the page.
I also really appreciated seeing her relationship build with Vine and Moinen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that I loved that. I loved that they were becoming, you know, family and everything. They were getting to know each other, and the picking at each other was awesome. And it always cracked me up. And the fact that she turns into a woodpecker, he's like, that's perfect.
Well, and I think the soul magic stuff was also really cool because I feel like we do get a lot of like soul stuff, whether it's in books where there's like demons or fae or whatever. And so this was another flavor of that, where there are 3 pieces of your soul and they each kind of do different things, or you can do different things with them. Yeah. And so watching Siiri become the woodpecker was so fitting. Mm-hmm. And watching her own like joy at being like, holy shit, I'm flying in the air as a woodpecker. This is really cool.
Well, and she got back, she's like, what was I? He's like, you're a woodpecker. Woodpeckers are really annoying. Yeah, they are.
He's like, correct.
He's like, correct. It's perfect. I'm like,
I also like that she didn't let Vainamoinen off the hook.
Yeah.
As much as there was this admiration, there was also this disappointment in that you could have come back and helped us at any fucking point, and you didn't.
And we finally get to see a little bit of why, because his soul has been split for however long.
They never really say, but I don't think I get the impression he doesn't really know either.
Yeah.
Because if he's been alive as long as they think, you know, they imply that he has, time kind of blurs at some point.
Well,
Right.
I think it happened close to or around the moment when he helps Hope escape.
Yes.
So a very long time, at least in terms of like probably centuries.
Yeah,
to the point where
people don't know what her name is.
Right. It's been lost to time because Lovitar has held it captive, essentially.
Right. And so when Cal, the bear, that she has been told by the goddess of hope to follow the bear, he'll lead you to the shaman. They finally get together, and Vainamoinen gets his soul returned because the bear held the other half of the soul. Like, I love the character shift because it's still the same character, but it's just like a little bit more lively. I thought that writing was so well done.
Mm-hmm. The part of his soul that was missing was this side that had a lot more of the like humor and joy associated with it. Yeah. I also thought that the characters that we get to know at the beginning, Siiri's family, Aina's mother, right? They were interesting enough that I am very, very hopeful that we get more of them in the second book.
Yes.
Because we got so little of them. Basically, after Aina gets kidnapped and Siiri is found injured, having tried to save Aina, her dad is like, quit acting up, shut the fuck up about this like God shit, because we've got a real problem with the Christians, okay? And her grandmother's like, I mean, you're basically fate touched, so you got to go do this, like, go. And so that whole dynamic, especially with like her brother sort of joining in with like, maybe I don't think he's like quite a priest yet, but definitely trying to be.
Yeah.
We get like such a weird little glimpse there that you can't say with any certainty, but he's definitely in support of the Christian
Christians.
God, to the point that when her disembodied soul is floating around in the village, he thinks that she is a test from the Christian God.
Well, and she must look enough like herself that people aren't freaked out. They think she's home.
Yeah, I guess my interpretation is it looks like her, and
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes is her.
Yeah.
So
It's just not like a spirit version of her, because sometimes when you say like a portion of her soul went there, you like immediately, and this is probably because of all mainstream media and stuff, you picture like a ghosty version of her.
Right.
But she must be solid in appearance and everything, because like her sister hugs her and everything.
well, and her brother, who is with the Christians now, grabs her and tries to burn her at the stake.
Yep. That was a
Yeah.
And the other aspect of it that like is interesting is it's almost like she's obscured, like, because they can't quite recognize her at first until she speaks out, and that's kind of one of the things that Vainamoinen sort of warned against, right? Like that you can sort of confuse things because you shouldn't be in two places at once, right?
yeah.
So how that magic works, I want to know more about for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we get a really cool glimpse of it though, where it's based on these runes that they draw, and very specifically their shaman drum, which they fuel and funnel their magic through. So like we get a glimpse of it, but I'm totally here for getting more.
Oh hell yeah. Well, and I'm assuming we will be getting more of her family and the other characters in the next book. One of the girls that was removed from Tuonela is now marrying Siiri's brother. Not the
feisty Christy.
Right.
Yeah, not the feisty Christ. The other one. She swore that she would inform Aina's family and Siiri's family of what. Well, not Siiri's family, but she meets Siiri's family because she swore to Aina that she would inform what was going on and everything. And so she went down there, and then she didn't really have anywhere else to go. She didn't have any family and everything, so she stayed. And aw.
Yeah, that's very nice.
It was very nice. I was happy for her. They were also going to burn her grandmother as a witch.
Look, yeah, that was kind of a rough scene.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what? I wanted to, like, you dickbag. That is your family.
Well, because like I expected two outcomes, right? Either people are going to see her and be like, oh my God, she's a devil or something. Or they'd be like, Siiri, you're back home. Yeah. And then Siiri has a chance to like explain, well, like I am, but I'm not. But instead, I mean, we get the first option, which is, oh my God, a devil. Only it's from her brother, and he's like really messed up. But it also kind of like triggers a little bit of religious trauma because
Yep, sure did.
you know, like,
Sure did.
gosh,
Goddamn feisty Christy.
yeah. It kind of feels like the pacing of the book is so interesting because there's a lot of slow moments that feel so like important and full of tension, and like I'm really drawn into them. And then all of a sudden you get a scene where it's like, and we're in the middle of the action right now. So you kind of didn't get, like, you got a chance to breathe in those slow moments, but you had to be on your toes. You had to be prepared for just about anything to happen.
God, she fell down those stairs and I thought she was going to lose that baby.
Oh God, right?
I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, I in no way want to be pregnant again, but even that, it would be a little triggering for me, and I have not miscarried.
No, that doesn't happen. But the escape from Tuonela with Siiri and Aina, I didn't really know how that was going to go. Yeah.
I especially liked the conclusion that was Tioni deciding, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you out of here. As much as it fucking kills me to do so.
Please don't let her touch you in front of me.
Oh God, that was too much. I was like, I hate Siiri in this moment.
Right.
I know. I was like, oh, just let them be together. But I also
Well, I wasn't sure if she was going to go back because right before that, when they're trying to cross the river to get back to the mortal plane, is when Aina, she's accepted that she's queen, and
She declares herself a goddess.
well, she keeps thinking back to Tuoni being like, "You're a goddess, you're a queen," and she's like, "I am a goddess," and she's now the goddess of righteous death, I believe.
Yes.
And actually defeats Tuonatar on her own, like with her own magic and summoning her own army of undead. And I'm like, dude, that's sick.
Yes.
I was
That's
like,
a
"Ooh."
video game ending if I've ever heard of one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And it's like, okay, but it's not like she just like loses this power because she's on the land of the living, because we know that other gods are able to use their powers in the land of the living.
Right.
Mhm.
So like now you're just a fucking god amongst mortals. What are you going to do with that? And you're going to be raising a god.
Right.
Yay.
But also now Siiri has all of Vainenmoinen's memories, all of his power.
Yes.
And so like she is now the greatest shaman of all time.
And his abilities, because she couldn't read before, but now she can.
Right. So it's not just that she has his powers and is like, I have these powers I don't know what to do with. She's like, I have the powers. I got the memories. I know all of the things.
I have the knowledge, because knowledge is power.
Siri reading the letter, though, I was like, just take my heart and just like stomp on it a few times. It's the same thing.
The amount of times that she was like, and there's more. And I'm like, you got to stop.
Stop it. I was listening to that part as I was driving to work this morning.
Oh, good.
I was like, this is so much for like 7:15 in the morning.
But God, what a good ending though, because like I didn't know if we would have kind of that conclusion to the relationship between Aina and Tuoni, and I imagine there's still going to be more, but to have the like kind of acceptance, but also now Tuoni putting his own promises out there for her to keep around their son, and I'm just like,
well, and the promises to accept Siiri as a person who is helping raise their child and everything too, and I was like,
even though he is like hated Siiri, because even before he even knew that she was going to come in and take Aina away, Aina had talked about her as if like she was, the most important person in Aina's life. She mattered. She meant everything to her. And Tuoni kind of had like this massive jealousy before even meeting her. And now his jealousy is like coming to fruition, or his like darkest thoughts are coming to fruition.
Well, and he had, who was it that had the vision that they shared with him? Was it Hope? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember what her actual name
I can't
is.
think of
She
what her
does
real
have
name
one,
is.
but
she gives him this vision that he will find his like, basically his true love, but it's going to be like a flash in the pan, and then he has to be miserable again. And he decided it was worth it.
Yeah.
Which is also very mythology.
it is.
I do like that the person who delivers, because he somehow figures out how to like have his raven come to the mortal realm to visit Aina, but I love the fact that it's Kalma that is the one who has to deliver the letter and the raven. And when Aina is like, well, you can meet your brother and can you read me the letter? And Kalma's like, listen, I am on my father's side, but I don't want any part of whatever is happening right now.
Yeah, no. But at the same time, I do kind of want to see the baby.
But also like, baby.
Who
But
doesn't love baby?
And I love that Aina put Siiri in her place at that moment. She's like, his father gets to see him.
Yes.
Yes, I was ready to tussle with Siri for a bit.
Yeah,
there.
I
I'm like,
was too.
Bitch, get the fuck out the way.
Like, I get the thought process behind it, because like technically Kalma kidnapped Aina. Like, I get that. I get the like hesitance, but you also have to understand that is the father of that child. That was not made against her will. It's not like there was a sexual assault situation. This came about by Aina's choosing.
Although she did chew him out, and rightfully so, about the like potency of his spunk, if you will.
Yeah.
Because like it was like 3 times, and
Yes.
she was like, "You must be fucking with me right now."
Right.
And he's like, "No, but I will."
But yeah, so I loved that Aina put Siiri in her place when she was like, hey, no, that's his father. He gets to see him. This is his sister. If you have a problem with her smell, stay the fuck outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that. I also appreciate that now the obligation is that Siiri has to bring Aina and their son to meet him once a year. And it's like, you just got to deal with that, bitch.
But I mean, like, yeah, of course. Of course he wants to know his son. And I really hope that there is at least a couple of scenes in the next book where they have to go to Tunela because, like, the tension, it's going to be tensioning.
My great hope for, like, these books is I hope eventually Siiri and Tuoni actually become friends and they kind of end up all three of them co-parenting fairly well.
Listen, if this doesn't end in a throuple at the end, I'm gonna be sad.
Well, for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be a
throuple.
throuple.
No. I don't need Siiri and Tuoni to be together, but I still have a hope that there will be an ending where, like, they all are co-parenting, and maybe Tuoni and Aina are kind of still together, but Siiri is still there. That's my hope. I mean, the gods are messy, right? Let them be messy.
Let them be messy. Also, eventually, Aina and Siiri are going to die.
Yeah.
So they will end up there.
I also wonder if there's going to be a time jump in when we get the next story, because there's already a time jump towards the end. We don't know. Yeah. I don't know how long a god gestates, but a little bit at least. And so,
well, she was 2 months pregnant when they left.
Was it 2 months? God damn.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, they've already done a time jump, and so I'm wondering if it's going to be even maybe when the baby is grown up.
Well, they said that they were going to return after the baby was born to Siiri and Aina's home, and they were going to try to kick the Christians out and unite Finland under Aina as a queen.
Essentially, yeah. Well, and from what I'm thinking is, like, yes, they waited until she gave birth. I think they were also probably waiting a little bit into the, like, late spring, early summer to travel it, just because it's Finland, man. Mm-hmm. The winters be wintering. We think we got it bad. Which we do, because Midwest is a bitch. But Finland can be brutal in the winter. So I would think they would want to make sure that the weather was done being its bipolar self.
Definitely don't want to cart a pregnant woman across that if you can help it.
Or a young baby.
Yeah, or a young baby. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if she gave birth maybe in early spring, they may wait until, it's not a newborn anymore before they travel with it, because this isn't a small, traipse across.
Well, and I have to imagine too, there's a moment of, like, Siiri's been on this quest to get Aina back, and Aina has now kind of finally had a chance to breathe back in the mortal world. Like, let's just take a minute and regroup here.
Mm-hmm. Which Lovely Hope gives them a nice place to do so. She fixes everything after it was burned down because of the fucking asshole witch.
Also, the other reason I think there's going to be a time jump is because babies are really annoying narratively. Yeah. There's no good way to manage them and do some epic anything. Like, somebody has to constantly be taking care of the kid, and so it's a awkward obstacle to get around.
Unless they get back to their town, and then there's mothers and grandmothers. Siiri's mother has passed, but her grandmother is very doting. And
sure.
Aina's
also
mother
a god
is
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they have to be pretty protective of this god baby, because the other prophecy we haven't talked about is that this baby is now going to, like, unite all of Tunela and be, like, the new god of death and kind of reign supreme, is what it seems like. So there's a whole future there.
Yeah. And so that's the other reason where I could, like, see it being, like, teen years or, like, coming up on adulthood is where we finally catch back up with them, with the kid, because then you can see those powers start manifesting, and, like, or maybe they'll do, like, a couple of, like, review chapters, and things like that. Or they could just pick up where we left off. I have no idea. I got nothing.
Well,
I wouldn't want them to do a big time jump, though, because I want to know, like, all the Christian crap and stuff.
But that stuff, like, realistically, and obviously we're talking about books, so, like, they could do that in a short span of time, but realistically, that would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I could see them doing, like, Emily Rath choosing to be like, okay, and now here is, a couple of chapters in this time, and then we're going to skip forward a little bit, and there's a couple of chapters in a couple more years and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and she could probably pretty easily do like a 20-year time jump where, the kid is now 20 and everything, and they're in the throes of all of the shit that's been going down, and they've been working on it all these years.
It feels like for a book, because we already know this is a duet. Unless she changes her mind, she said this is a duet, which means there is one more book.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of loose ends to like tie up in one book.
And fascinating ends that I'm like, I want to pull them all.
And so, I mean, my fear is we won't get some of the things we want. Like, we won't get enough time in with Tuoni in Tunella and like the son, kind of like that dynamic there. Or we won't get to see the end where Hal, their son, becomes like the new death god.
But I think that one way we can achieve I have anything to do this. I think one way that Emily Rath can achieve this is we could do like a big jump, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And then there's reflection on what has passed.
Sure.
Right.
Yes,
and how
absolutely.
they've gotten here and what is leading to this next big moment that is catalyst enough for there to be a story to tell.
It'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even have a date yet. Who knows when we'll get it?
Who's to say?
Who's to say? Sometimes they lie about dates.
Sometimes they do.
And with that, I think we've reached the moment that is ratings time.
What's your spice rating?
Very little in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is present. And Tilney was giving me hot guy vibes the whole time.
He was very broody. I liked it.
Yeah. So I guess like 1.5.
I was also thinking a 1.5 because even the sex scene that we have is like, we go through it quickly. We don't even sit in it for very long.
I was going to give it a 1 because,
Okay.
it's not really there all that much, but there is a lot of angst, pining that I appreciate.
There's a lot of pining, but that usually falls under your romance rating.
It's true. And my romance rating isn't hella higher.
No, it's no.
Because it's not really about the romance. It is a fantasy with romance in it. So I'm going to say a 3.
I was going to go with a 2.5.
And I was going to go with a 2.
Well, shit, there you go.
All right. You got the gambit there. Varying from 2 to 3. All right. Overall.
I really enjoyed this quite a lot. My major complaints are just like things we've talked about, trying to go back and forth between storylines, struggling to like Siiri, even though I liked Siiri, but I also didn't like Siiri because then she was going to break up the couple I wanted to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Interfering.
Yeah. So I think I landed on a 4.
I also gave it a 4.
All right.
I really enjoyed it. We know I love a pantheon, though. Like, I find them fascinating.
I literally was so like all mixed up about this that I waited to rate it until we chatted.
I do that sometimes.
I have
though,
done
too.
that many times.
And I think I'm also going to go with a 4, not just because I want to gavel, which I do, but also like I agree. Like it's a really good, solid book, and you have to just not go into it with fucking Sarah J. Maas in mind,
Right.
It's also well written,
Yes,
which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And so like if you can really get into a fantasy that has some romance in it, you will enjoy this. If you're going to go into it expecting a spicy book that has a fantasy setting, this is not that book.
And I think that's why a lot of the Goodreads reviews I've seen are kind of in that realm of, oh, you promised us a sapphic romance. And it's like, I mean, I don't know who promised you that, but that's not what this book is.
No.
Yeah, no.
So you know what that means.
Gavel, gavel.
Yay.
My favorite part about gavel, gavel is the eye roll we get from Danny afterwards.
It's fine.
You don't even have to actually see it in the moment. You can just feel it in your bones.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's so satisfying.
I'm glad that I amuse you both.
So that brings us to your recommendations.
Well, I'm going to steal this recommendation. I have recommended it many times before, but we mentioned it earlier, A Fate Inked in Blood. It is also a pantheon, but it is based on the Norse pantheon. It is spicier than this book, so if you're looking for a spicier version of this, A Fate Inked in Blood is a very good choice.
Yes.
But it is also kind of a very similar but not similar story where it is, one person being intermixed with the gods and everything and having to fix certain situations. So, yeah, I highly suggest. When is that next book coming out?
I think it was May.
Was it?
It's soon.
Yeah.
Better soon.
Because I want to read that one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's all red.
And we've done an episode on it, so you should go listen to A Fate in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen.
Yes.
Mhm. I've been looking at her other series to pick up, and I pick it up, and then I put it back down, and then I pick it back up, and I'm like, one of these days I'm just gonna commit and go.
I have the audiobook for Bridge Kingdom,
Yes,
I think.
that's the one I keep picking up and putting back down.
It's in my phone, and I'm just like, do I start it? And then I get distracted.
Yes. My recommendation is going to be Ruthless Vows, which is the sequel to Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. The first book, if you read it, it sort of starts to touch on these gods that are involved with this whole world that's under attack, and you don't fully know the extent of it, and it's a whole thing. And in the second one, you get to learn way more about it. You get to learn about the gods in question, why they're a problem, and why they're making everybody else's life hard. And so it just has this element of being able to learn about a pantheon that has aged a little bit away in time, that I think is very similar to what we have going on in this story with like Lovitar's daughter with hope and things like that, and just people not realizing that Tilney has been basically gone from his entire kingdom this whole time. It feels very in that vein of, as a common person trying to navigate the world, if the gods just suddenly showed up and rocked your shit, how do you get through that? So anyway, it's also a really good book.
I haven't read the second one yet, but isn't also like death gods and undead and stuff a part of it?
I don't know that like technically death god is quite the right thing. Like the gods, like one of them's the god of music, and so they're more like gods of abstract ideas.
Okay.
And not as concrete, but yes.
So my recommendation is kind of more like if you wanted the romance part of this and you really liked the relationship between Aina and Tuoni, is Jailer to the Death God by Rebecca F. Kennedy. So that book is firmly in the romance category, fantasy romance, and I don't remember the character's name, so forgive me on that. But the queen, there has been this plague that has been killing off all of her people, and so they finally do this ritual to summon the Death God, and if she does this ritual right, which requires literal human sacrifices, willing human sacrifices, the Death God will owe her like a bargain or a favor, and the bargain and favor she makes with him actually keeps him attached to her for like a year. And so there's a lot of animosity from him basically being in like kind of a bit of like an enslavement situation, and like that's not what she wanted. She just really wanted to save her people. And throughout that time they fall in love and they do spicy things together.
Oh
Yeah, so do that. I also have a wild recommendation, and this is more just an excuse to talk about this because it's a video game and we haven't done video game recommendations in a long time.
Love it.
But if you liked Siiri's story and you're like, how do I live that story? You should play the video game Hellblade. I think it's Suena's Sacrifice. That one's Norse though. And it's, I will say, massive trigger warning for mental health. But essentially, the main character, her husband died and she travels to hell to get his soul back.
Ooh.
But it's one of those games where it forces you to fail a lot. So it's hard, and you learn by failing. You learn by dying a lot. But it's very dark. It's very grim. And she has to go through all of these trials, and it has like a really strong like mental health representation in it as well, of like anxiety and all sorts of stuff. So you have to go into that with just knowing that that's there. But yeah, that's my other recommendation.
I do too.
So that's what we got, folks. If you like this episode, you can find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, primarily on TikTok and Instagram, but you can find us kind of wherever you want to look for us. Or you can go to our website, wrongdustjackets.com, where you'll find all of the episodes that we've done previously, the ones that we have coming up, as well as our blog posts. And we would like it so much if you commented, liked, rated, reviewed, whatever's available to you on your podcast listening app. That helps us in the algorithm. And we just like it if you would comment on our socials, get in contact with us. We'd love to talk to you. That's all I got. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.